This video is sponsored by Surfshark. Hey guys, welcome back. So now getting back into After Infinity, which is where I want to kind of just put the ideas and just things that I either mention in other videos or perhaps even what you guys mentioned in the comments, and really just give these ideas their own video and talk about how these different characters or concepts could or should make their way into the MCU. And for this one, I thought, why not talk about the Spider Armor Mark II and even the thing about Parker Industries making its way in as well. So let's get into it. But first, if you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to catch spills every week. And don't forget to hit that bell up top so we can squad up in the comments for the first hour. Alright, so jumping right into this in hopes of seeing this happen, of course, first when it's safer to go outside and all the film companies are able to make their movie magic again, but also in hopes for a future where Disney and Sony continue to play nice. And for the most part, I'm just going to be referring to Spider-Man as being in the MCU rather than getting into the whole SPUMC thing or SPUMC, whatever the kids are calling it these days. So I'm going to just say MCU. But within this future of Spider-Man continuing in the MCU post-Endgame after the loss of Tony Stark, I would very much like for him to continue like we'd seen him in Spider-Man Far From Home, following in the footsteps of Tony Stark, but doing so in his own way. And what better way to go about that than to have Peter continue much like we had seen him in Far From Home, building new suits to better fit whatever challenge or opposition that he's being faced with, which potentially for Peter in the MCU will eventually give us a plethora of Spider-Man suits over the years to come. And so to start off, since Peter's a wanted criminal, which in a way kind of helps my theory or idea, which we'll talk about more once we get into Parker Industries. But for now, we'll just kind of play with the idea of Peter being on the run, but with doing so still getting help from Happy, who would make little stealth trips to give Peter access to Tony's tools and toys. And in this world where Peter's identity is public thanks to Mysterio and the Daily Bugle being the TMZ of the MCU, this will not only have him constantly looking over his shoulder, but also the other villains who have been inquiring about his identity, and now it's pretty much trending. But with this putting Peter in a position to where he'll likely be meeting opposition way more than what he's used to, I'd say the first suit that he would need Happy's help with putting together, it would have to be some variant of the Spider Armor. But in order for Peter to reach out to Happy and cover his tracks as well as not associate Stark Industries with helping a wanted criminal, this is when Peter and Happy would benefit greatly from using a VPN from this video's sponsor, Surfshark. Because there are a lot of benefits from having a VPN, which allows you to keep your personal information personal and protect a lot of those online transactions, which I'm sure you've been doing a lot more of recently. But one of the things that really sets Surfshark apart from other VPNs is that with one subscription, you can put it on as many devices as you like. And for devices that don't have access to the app, Surfshark has a feature called Smart DNS, and that way you can use it on your smart TV or your gaming console. And better yet, I'm gonna show you where it got me at, because with Surfshark allowing you to select different countries, this completely changed my search results in Netflix because it literally quadrupled when I switched the location, with different countries having different restrictions. But literally with the push of a button, you can get rid of all of that and get the search results that you deserve. So sign up today and use my code Dopespill to get 85% off and 3 extra months for free, or just use the link down in the description and sign up for Surfshark and get the best deal going on a VPN. And so now to start off the idea of Peter using these armored suits, but also finding a way to make them different from the suits that Peter has now, I want to spend a little time talking about the first version of the Spider Armor, the Spider Armor Mark I, which first appeared in Web of Spider-Man issue 100 within the My Enemy's Enemy series. And at that time, this put Peter in this crazy situation when Wilson Fisk was out of the picture and everyone was trying to take his spot in New York, including Blood Rose, who Peter wouldn't find out for some time was actually Richard Fisk, the son of the Kingpin, who already had his issues of the Foreigner, who was also like Silver Sable's ex-husband, but with the Foreigner trying to kill Blood Rose, and the Foreigner also having the resources of the Cyber Hunters. All of these issues then turned towards Peter, which at that time was really just the beginning, because this was turned up another notch when the new Enforcers jumped in, and they were pretty much like your wave of new villains who were trying to take the Kingpin's place, but they had been involved for some time because they originally hired the Foreigner to take out Blood Rose, the son of Wilson Fisk. But with Peter getting caught up in the middle of all this and dealing with all of this firepower by himself, it got pretty insane pretty quick, and it's kind of like how I feel playing Spider-Man on PS4, where you gotta take down like 60 people by yourself just to get 3 base tokens. And though Spider-Man is quick and he can take down a number of these guys one-on-one, but in a crazy situation like this where everybody's after him, with him becoming their common enemy, that's really where you got no choice but to upgrade your tools to face that opposition, which in this case Peter did by creating a pseudo-metallic compound that would give him a heavier armor in the middle of this mob war, which was actually one of his previous projects that he picked back up because he had started working on it while studying at ESU. And this is what then dawned the creation of Spider Armor Mark 1. And I would even say before we get into Mark 2, that'd be pretty cool if we got a bit of this Mark 1 for like your first part of the film, and really just so we can get a moment of seeing it in live action where it serves its purpose even though having its flaws like slowing him down, which then causes him to come up with a newer version. But in my mind, for like this MCU adaptation, instead of having this mob war for Kingpin's company, I would just focus it on the manhunt for the wanted Peter Parker, who's still trying to work things out and clear his name. And rather than the new enforcers being just a gang of villains, I'd rather the MC use that name for a seemingly new organization who's not only looking to be the new street level hero, but also take Peter Parker off the streets, who's this alleged murderer, and instead this small new enforcer organization, it would be led by your Blood Rose type of character. And that would instead cause your MCU Peter Parker, who's been chased by this maniac who wants him off the streets dead or alive, but this will cause Peter to create the Mark 1 Spider Armor suit, which could also use technology that Peter has previously put together in school, with us knowing that he's already worked on Spider-Man side projects way early on with him designing his own web fluid. So why not discover that he has a number of other side projects, either on his laptop or his phone, that he could then use to combine with the Stark technology in order to implement into this new suit. But as far as the spider armor, with Peter using the suit, as I mentioned, it would also have its flaws, and we'd likely see it destroyed early on because of that. And in this film, which we're kind of piecing together with theories and ideas, hopefully the suit will be taken down by something other than a live action Thermite, who found a weakness in the suit with temperature issues, since he can freeze things with his right hand and burn things with his left hand, because the temperature issues is something that Tony figured out in Iron Man 1, so those should still be in the notes. But this would then bring us around the Spider Armor Mark II, which in this case would have a hybrid of functionality from what we've seen in the Spider Armor Mark I and Peter's Stark suit, which premiered in Spider-Man Far From Home, which essentially was the Swiss Army knife of Spider-Man suits. But that's also the reason why this Mark II Spider Armor would have to serve at least one or two functions better than any of the other suits that Peter currently has in the MCU. But even with this, we may also get a case to where Tony's already designed the suit and Peter either modifies it or finishes it from the selections of suits that we've seen in Spider-Man Far From Home, which once again will be like your best case blend of Peter merging his unique ideas with the resources and information which he was given from Tony Stark. And so now in the comics, the Spider Armor Mark II premiered in Amazing Spider-Man issue 656, and at the time with Peter needing it after losing his spider sense and getting shot, which at the time took him to the night nurse's secret free clinic so that he could get patched up. And in the MCU, this could either be Linda Carter, Claire Temple, or Christine Palmer, and most likely Christine Palmer, but I'm not sure if they've officially made her the night nurse. But as far as the one or two functionalities that this suit would have to do better than the others, amongst other subtle differences that would work into Peter's advantage, first would be the durability made from his formula, which would be stronger than the other suits, but also way lighter, allowing him to sustain higher amounts of damage like grenades, missiles, or even armor-piercing rounds. But also, and unlike any of the other MCU suits, in this case it would be the introduction of the overhand web shooter, which in the comics also had magnetic web fluid with the addition of wireless functionality, so that Peter could also use it to block signals, which will definitely come in handy when you're wanted and somebody's trying to put you on TikTok. But with Peter advancing the webbing in addition to this overhand web shooting design, much like in the comics, it'll literally free his hands while holding objects, but also add functionality to his webbing that exceed just shooting webs in different shapes and sizes. But with the version of this suit in the MCU that has the higher durability, I would also want this version to be the one that would achieve that with nanotech, making it his strongest armor that's also as light and agile as its most basic suit, with new web functionality that'll communicate with the suit in a way that will make the Spider Armor Mark II stand out from the rest. And I gotta say, though I love this design, and you can probably tell it's my favorite Spider Armor suit out of the different Spider Armors, but in the MCU, I wouldn't be mad if they made it look like the Anti-Ox suit from the PS4 game, which is one of my favorite suits in that game, and I feel like it took a lot of inspiration from the Mark II suit anyway, so it wouldn't be much of a stretch to make the Mark II actually look like this. But so now, as far as what I mentioned before, as far as Parker Industries, which would definitely take place much after he's cleared his name, which for the record needs to be solved in one movie. But with having an idea like this later on down the pipeline, this is something we'll probably see sooner if it takes the route of Peter following in the steps of Tony Stark rather than having Doc Ock take over his body, which I kind of want to see more, but I don't think they're going to do it. And really and truly, I think that's something we're more likely to see in a sequel to the PS4 game. But if it were done in the MCU and not in a Doc Ock kind of way, like in this scenario, it would totally be Peter Parker. But in this scenario, it will lend for the opportunity for Peter to step further out of Tony's shadow, but do so by still honoring Tony as his mentor, and do so while also continuing to provide resources for the Avengers, much like Tony did, but also give us your Mark III, your Mark IV, and plenty of other amazing suits. But that'll do it for this one, guys. Let me know in the comments, like, what kind of ways would you like to see Peter use his innovations in the films? Whether it's with his armor or new gadgets he would come up with himself, or perhaps even old ones that Tony used to use that Peter would just use differently. But let me know your thoughts down in the comments below, and we'll do it again in the next one. Alright, later.